Do you find yourself fixated on an outcome and get frustrated that outcome is just not coming quick enough? You're not alone. There's lots of people out there with this concern. And today we're going to be discussing this very concern. I'm your host, Anthony Hartcher. I'm a clinical nutritionist and lifestyle medicine specialist. This podcast seeks to enhance and enlighten your well-being. And today we're going to be discussing about going with the flow and the process of letting go. So let's get into the episode. I'm going to share a story about my adventures in the last couple of weeks. So I, again, went ocean swimming. In a previous podcast, I talk about ocean swimming. And on this adventure, this was just a simple ocean swim. So my regular exercise, and I went down to my regular beach, which is Coogee Beach, Sydney, and I looked out into the ocean and wow, I saw the checkered flags saying that the beach was closed, that they were crossed over. So the beach is closed, no swimming. And I thought, damn, I really feel like a swim today. It's my opportunity to wash away all the stress and to really engage nature. I love my ocean swimming for that very reason. And I've always had a fascination for wild weather. And so I actually love being in wild weather. So it doesn't concern me about being in wild. I feel alive when I'm in wild weather. And so looking out in the surf, I see some large waves, not many people, no swimmers. There was no swimmers out on this particular day. There were some surfers out on this day. And it was a bit gloomy, not the best looking day, but I just wanted that cleanse. I wanted to wash off all the stress. And so I thought, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go out and I'm going to enjoy this swim. And looking at the surf conditions, as you do, I used to have I have a surfing background, so very much used to assessing surfing conditions. And you're looking for those rips or those currents. And yeah, it was a fairly turbulent sort of conditions, you could say. And I was thinking, it's going to be an interesting swim. I'm certainly going to be pushed around, and moved around a lot in this process of enjoying my swim. One thing that crossed me was when I approach these conditions, although they're wild, they're rough, they're more powerful than me. And for me, I could absolutely try to be powerful back at it and resist the power and force my way out to the back of these massive waves. But what I do is I let go. And this is part of what I'm going to be sharing with you is often we're trying to control the situation in order to achieve the outcome. So the outcome for me was enjoying my swim. And often we're wanting to control the conditions or the environment in order for us to get the outcome we want. And we can't. It's out of our control. And certainly this day swimming was totally, there's nothing I could do, in terms of calming that ocean, obviously. And I often question, why do people, get fixated on, like in terms of a weight goal, is that I'm just, that weight, I'm really focused on that weight. There's only so much in your control in terms of inputs around losing weight. The rest is up to your body and it finding the homeostasis and starting to work well. And then, provided the inputs are right, you'll start losing weight. So, this whole thing about, I've got to lose weight, got to lose it within this time period, and it's just not happening, and getting frustrated is actually slowing the process down because it's stressing you. It's putting you in a position that you cannot control. You cannot control the rate of weight loss. You can't control that. Your body will do it when it's ready, when the environment's ready, when the conditions are ready. And let me get back to my story. I need to continue with the story. So I'm wanting to get out of the back behind these waves because I can't obviously do my swim where the waves are breaking. So it's important to get out the back behind the waves where they're not breaking, and then I could do my swim. And these conditions were really difficult. They were really large waves, dumping ferociously onto the sandbar. And my approach was, I can't do anything about the conditions. I want to go for a swim or want to get out the back. What I can do is not resist the conditions and allow my body to move with the water flow. And essentially that's what I did. And it was incredible experience, because by me just allowing my body just to go with the water flow, obviously the waves are coming in dumping, but the water does need to get back out again, right? So it sort of comes in and out, right? That's how the water works. And so this water was finding its way out, and it took me out. And all as I needed to do was just duck under waves, and that's all I did. I didn't swim or ferociously trying to get out and beat this oncoming wave. I just allowed the current to take me out. I went with the current. I ducked under the wave when I needed to. I'd go over the wave if I could, but I wasn't trying to beat a particular wave in order to get out there and do it in such a timing or whatever. It was more allowing and going with the flow, okay, and focusing on what I can control. So my input here is I'm wanting to stay buoyant, right? And I know how to stay buoyant and I know how to swim, but I wasn't trying to beat the wave or do it in such a pace or whatever. It was more allowing the conditions to support me and to aid me. And so it took me out the back before I knew it. It was incredible. I was blink of the eye, so to speak. I was out the back. So it was just, when I reflect back on that experience, it's, I often see clients, their goal is to lose weight. And they've got a process to do that, which is generally running a calorie deficit, but there's other variables that come into play, which I'll talk about. But there's only so much of what you can control in that whole process of losing weight. And so in my goal was to get out the back. Their goal is to lose weight. And what I find is there's so much resistance in terms of the person trying to control everything, and then and they get frustrated. And I could have resisted and trying to beat waves and trying to bash through them and get out the back, but it would have taken longer and would have been more exhausting, and I wouldn't have had the energy to swim if I had a fork with the ocean. And so it's very much like with weight loss. Don't battle with trying to get that outcome in a fixated time period. It's more because that fighting is producing a stress in the body, which is slowing the process down. When you become really fixated on an outcome that you can't control, it just gets worse and it becomes more of a stress, and you'll start to then affect the other variables that are in your control. So back to my swim. I then get out the back, and it's rough as, and there's, there's pollution and whatnot from the runoff from the gutters into the ocean. So you get all debris or leaves and sticks and a bit of rubbish and whatnot. The visibility's poor. You can't see much at all. It's very poor, very limited. And I really just embraced the conditions. I let my body move with the swell. I just moved my arms in rhythm with how I was being pushed around. And there was no fighting of the ocean. I was moving with the ocean, and it became effortless, essentially. It was really easy and it was enjoyable because I was in this flow. And after my swim, I got out feeling great, right? Because initially I was questioning whether I should go and exercise. But after my swim, it was so incredible. I bumped into a person in the change room, and we just started talking because we're the only two people down there essentially that day. I didn't even know he was out there swimming because I didn't see any other swimmers. But we bump into one another and we start chatting, and we say how wonderful we're feeling and how nice the ocean was. And when I asked him what he liked about it, it was exactly what I liked about the ocean. It was that wild nature of it, the power of it, the unforgivingness of the environment, but allowing yourself to move with it and not against it, not to fight it. It's what we both loved about the experience that we had that day. And so I want to translate that back to this weight loss that, when I'm constantly talking to clients around weight loss, there's so much desire to get that outcome. It becomes so fixated and it becomes such a major focus that it just feels like there's no progress. But there always is progress, particularly when you're just focusing on the inputs and doing the inputs in terms of what you can control well, regularly. And this is where I spend my time with my clients, is getting them to focus just on the inputs, what they can control, not worrying about what they can't control, which is the timing of which you achieve weight loss or the amount of weight loss you achieve. You don't know that. It's unknown. It's out of our control. Well, you certainly can't press a button or dial it up or down. But what you can do is focus on the process and do the inputs well and allow the flow of the process to take you to where you want to go. And it will happen in time. I see it time and time again with my clients. But the minute they let go, the minute they embrace the process, they start feeling great. They start getting more energy. Their moods are better. They're sleeping better. Everything seems to be in flow for them. And they're not checking the scales. They're not fixated on that anymore. They're just fixated on the process, fixated on what they can control. So what can you control? You can control what you put in your mouth. Okay, so that's obviously one key area, is putting food into your mouth that's going to serve your goal, serve your purpose, and just focus on putting the right foods each time, and then connecting with how the body's feeling and responding to those foods. So some foods resonate with the body really well. Well, you want to keep eating them. They're obviously really in tune with your body and what it needs. There's foods that don't resonate. They're the foods that you want to have less of or eliminate. And so getting this more intuitive flow about food really helps you in terms of any goals you have around increasing energy, weight loss, better sleep, better moods. It's more embracing the process and enjoying it and not seeing it as a chore. That's the other thing with weight loss, is that it's not enjoyable because they're restricting themselves and they're so fixated on this calorie deficit and not worrying about other variables which are so important for weight loss. Those other variables being the stress in your life and doing things to help lower the stress, like self-care. Getting a good night's sleep is so important in terms of achieving a weight loss goal or having improved energy or improved moods. We know with a sleep deficit that we're not going to be eating the foods we want to eat the next day. We're going to be very corrupted and be wanting to eat more higher calorific foods. That's just the way in which our body responds to trying to keep you going. It does. It needs foods that are going to bring you energy because you didn't get any restorative sleep. So your body's not working optimally. And so in this, I guess, unoptimal process, it's looking for fuel sources such as higher calorific foods to keep you going. Stress, I mentioned before, is implicated by lack of sleep. So the less sleep you have, the more stress on the body. And so they start to feed one another. And then obviously having more and more stress affects sleep. Having less sleep affects more stress. And all this will have a massive bearing on whether you're going to lose weight, because your systems aren't going to be functioning optimally. Okay, we need our detoxification processes working well, and they struggle. They're overloaded when we're not sleeping, we're not restoring, we're not breaking down the liver, the key organs for detoxification aren't functioning well because they're not getting the healing they need at night. They're getting overwhelmed with the amount of stress load that's on the body and more stress hormones to break down. So it just feeds this negative loop that takes you away from your goal. So there are another two key inputs that if you're looking to lose weight or wanting to feel better, is that you need to manage your stress and do your best. You can't eliminate stressors. There's always going to be stresses in your life. That's inevitable. What you can do is better control how you respond to stress. So when you feel overwhelmed, is to go to some tools that help reduce the stress in your life or the way you feel about that stress. And they're things like we've just discussed before in previous episodes, such as mindfulness, connecting with a practice of mindfulness, which could be doing a sport that you enjoy doing that keeps you focused and keeps you not thinking about that stress in your life, that enables you to disconnect and disassociate. It can be singing, dancing. It can be whatever brings you joy, doing more of that helps you focus and takes your attention away from that major stress event or stressing events in your life. So it's important to give your mind a break, and you do that through your stress management tools, which were spoken at length about in previous episodes. So it's recognizing that you're stressed, a bit overwhelmed, and doing something about it. Not just keep doing the same old thing, actually addressing the stress. I mean, you might not be able to change the stressor. We have stresses in our life that just don't go away because we've got deadlines to meet at work. We've got commitments to our family. We have things problems that step into our lives that we didn't plan or foresee. It's just dealing with it, and it's recognizing when you're feeling overwhelmed and going to practices that help calm you. So that's all it is. It's going to these practices that calm you. So that's the stress side of things. If you're better at managing the stress during the day and doing regular practices to manage that stress, then you're a lot calmer at night. There's less stress hormones at night, so you get a better night's sleep. Okay, so we can, in terms of the sleeping process, we can do things that help our sleep, or we can do things that distract from our sleep. So we want to do more things that help our sleep and allow the sleeping process to happen. Okay, and this is the other thing. When we get fixated on getting a good night's sleep, that becomes a stress. So we don't want to become fixated on getting a good night's sleep. Focus on the inputs that you can control that enable you to get a good night's sleep. There was one night, it was actually last night, where I did everything well during the day, and I was reflecting, as to why I couldn't go to sleep that night. I'd exercised. I didn't have any caffeine after mid-morning, or I essentially had it early morning. And so I knew the caffeine wasn't too high in my body. I had managed my stress well that day. I'd exercised, got outside, done lots of walking, had breaks, had times where it wasn't being busy, and I was just being as opposed to doing. And I couldn't work out why I wasn't sleeping. And I was thinking, I'd done all these inputs right during the day. And then it dawned on me that I had mackerel for dinner. And mackerel contains a lot of histamine. And histamine is a neurotransmitter for like arousal, wakefulness. Okay, so I had two mackerel, or, two fillets of mackerel. And yes, I was feeling really awoke, aroused, and I'm thinking, no, I should be tired. But now I've associated back to the mackerel. And this is about being in tune with what you're having, and then having an understanding of how those foods serve you. And yes, I do respond strong to caffeine. So I'm well aware that I can't have it. Even mid-morning's not great for me. I need to have it early morning. And so I'm very in tune, where some people can have, a coffee in the afternoon. It doesn't seem to affect them. Everyone's different. So it's about being intuitive. It's about focusing on the inputs. And I mentioned, there's certain inputs around sleep that you can control. The, ability to fall asleep is, it's up to your body, right? But what you can do is make sure you do everything well and allow your body to do that. And again, it is going with the flow and letting go. So it's not becoming fixated on I'm not sleeping. I've got this and this and this to do tomorrow, and I'm going to have to do it sleep deprived. It's not doing that. It's then thinking, well, if you're starting to stress like that, then it's calming the mind, doing some things that calm your mind, and focus on doing those things, as opposed to I'm still not asleep and it's 10:30 or 11 o'clock or 1 a.m. in the morning. It's embracing the tools that you can control and just doing that, and which, in this case is calming the mind, going back to your breath, just focusing on the breath, not focusing on I'm not asleep, okay? You can't press a button and fall asleep. Again, it's up to the body. It's like me resisting the ocean to get out the back for a swim, and then resisting the swell and making it a really hard swim. That swim was effortless because I went with the flow. I let go. And I really want you to really get less fixated on the outcome of being asleep by a certain time or losing so many kilos by a certain time. Let go of that and get into the flow of the process, and just focus on the inputs that you can control. The outcome is dependent on variables that you can't necessarily manipulate, even though you want to. As you know, there's no weight loss pill that just solves everyone's weight loss concerns or weight issues, right? Same with sleeping pills, right? And then there's side effects. If there is a pill that does help you with sleep, there's an inevitable side effect. If you can find these processes that are intuitive to your body, that that work for you, embrace them and enact them, and let go of the outcome. I read a quote in a book. It was Bob Proctor's book, and it was a quote that he states around this whole thing about just focusing on the process and not getting fixated on the outcome. And it's letting go and letting God, or letting go and having faith that the outcome will come, because the inputs you are doing are proven to bring the outcome that you desire. So we know calming the mind at night supports a good night's sleep. There's plenty of research that says that. We know that managing your stress, getting a good night's sleep, and eating well is going to support weight loss. We know that. That's scientifically proven. What we don't know is how long it's going to take you, when you put these practices in place, how long is that outcome going to take? We don't know that. And so worrying about that outcome or getting frustrated about that outcome is not going to serve you in achieving that outcome. It's actually going to do the opposite. So in conclusion, what I'm saying is let go, let God, or let go, have faith, or let go, go with the flow, and just focus on the process and doing the process well and enjoying the process. Okay. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Me and My Health Up. Stay tuned for more insightful episodes, and we have some more coming your way. So I'm really keen for you to really tune in for more exciting episodes of Me and My Health Up with Anthony Hartcher and my range of guests that are always inspiring, well qualified, So, and to really help me grow this podcast and to reach more people and to help others in a greater way, please like and share the episode. Share it with as many as you can, because then I'm helping more and more people improve their health, and I'm achieving my goal of enhancing and enlightening the well-being of others.